hey, you know, I'm concerned about this cousin, I'm concerned about this loved one. We really want them to go out and get some help. Well, I don't think so, because they're only going to make them crazier than what they started. Hello, TACA Speaks. Hello, I'm Dr. Sheriyse Williams. I am a resident in clinical psychology, and I'm from the city of Chesapeake. Currently, I'm practicing virtually, so I get to see everyone through the lens of how they want me to see them and not in person.
Okay, Dr. Williams, so if you can go ahead and share just a little bit about your cultural background.
So this may be funny or interesting, everyone, but I'm almost embarrassed. I have lived in Chesapeake, Virginia my entire life. Luckily, I've seen some of the world and I've had a chance to travel. I've been here. I was raised with my mom and dad and my two sisters. I'm actually the oldest, probably the cutest as well, but no. So my middle sister is an attorney, my baby sister is a doctor, and mom and dad somehow, I don't know what the cheat code was, but they found a way to access it, and they did a great job with us. But basically, I have been here my entire life. We are a very spiritual, religious family. So, guys, I was that kid that was joked on the weekends because they knew, or on the weeknights, that we were going to have to pile into my mom's minivan and head out to church. I mean, we spent 7 days a week in church. My parents eventually became pastors when I was a teenager. So, like, religion and spirituality is so important to who I am and how I view life. It's just meaningful. Have this 21-year-old, I know you can't believe it, I don't look like I'm a day over 30. I get it. I started early, guys. It's okay, though. We made it. But I have a 21-year-old who is graduating from college. Then I have this amazing 15-year-old daughter that, you know, we just get along every day. She's like my best friend. I hope you guys can see through what I'm saying. And then I have this 3-year-old who we don't know where she came from. I guess the COVID brought new experiences, and she's a part of that. So my husband and I, we've been married for 17 years. So it's been an amazing journey. Not perfect, but amazing in all.
Awesome. And can you share how you identify?
So I'm an African-American female, her, she, all of those things, but I embrace everyone. It's so important for me to suspend judgment and extend grace. I love people in general.
And would you say that growing up you absolutely were someone or that embraced your culture, or is it something that you even struggled with?
Oh my goodness, I definitely struggled with it. You know, it was something that I was teased about my culture, religion, and all of those things, and I didn't understand the meaning and the value of tradition and what my parents wanted us to do, but now it means everything to me. It's interesting, just talking about being in church and religion. I would complain to my parents, we have to go to church 7 days a week. What's wrong with us? We're not normal. We're not like other people. And now I find myself in those spaces, or praying and meditating 7 days a week. I have this place in my house that's just my sacred space that I go and I practice my religion, my spirituality. So
I love that.
It has shaped my life. It's everything to me now.
So I'm really curious, mental health.
Sure.
You shared your credentials earlier, so you have obviously been on this journey for some time. Can you share what inspired you to even go into mental health, especially coming from a religious family, actually?
Yes. Oh, that's so interesting. I hadn't even thought about that whole process or dynamic. But when I first got to college, I was 16 years old, and I was a freshman at Norfolk State University. For those who are local to the area, if I say
the green and gold,
you're going to say the green and gold. Exactly. You get it. So I was 16, but I was also pregnant and did not know that I was pregnant at the time. So I'm a freshman in college, and I had already had these relationships where people would come and talk to me in high school. Whenever two people were at odds with one another, they would come and say, hey, Sheriyse, you know, I have an issue with this person and I have an issue with that person. But luckily, I was always able to help bring them together. And I said to myself, I need to be a counselor. And that's kind of how I got into the whole thing. And I get to school and I fall in love with these professors who are all different shades of brown and black. They're beautiful. They could have been in Jet magazine. Okay, I may be dating myself. But they were just beautiful. And at that time, I knew that I wanted to be an extension of them. And I found my calling to go into the field of psychology and to be a college professor. This is also hilarious. My mom and I went to college together, so we had classes together. So my mom, she was very present. My dad was very present in my life, but my professors introduced me to something different. It's what I call Black excellence, and I saw myself being a part of that. And of course, at 16 or 17, you're not really thinking about it in the grand scheme of things, but I saw my future by looking at them, and that was so inspiring.
That's powerful. I saw my future by looking at them.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next question, what's from your professional
Sure.
and clinical perspective, what seems to be a reason that mental health and mental illness is still misunderstood amongst communities of the African diaspora? So whether someone lives on the continent, in the Caribbean, here in the United States, you can find us anywhere,
yes.
right, as we know. But what would you say clinically seems to be maybe one thing that keeps us misunderstanding how all of this kind of functions?
Yeah, you mentioned something about the integration of religiosity or spirituality and mental health. Believe it or not, that is one of the biggest barriers. Something that's meant to inspire, motivate, encourage, uplift, and empower people can also work against them when there's a lack of understanding about the benefits or the power of mental health, mental well-being.
For sure.
Addressing mental illness. So I know, and I've done a lot of research on it, but I've experienced it personally. And not just in the religious community, but even within my own family. When we're making referrals and we're saying, hey, I'm concerned about this cousin, I'm concerned about this loved one, we really want them to go out and get some help. Well, I don't think so, because they're only going to make them crazier than what they started. And I've heard it from so many of my family members.
There's that word, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not just saying that all my family members have issues, but I'm just saying for those who need that support, there's that hindrance from a credible source, meaning this is someone we value in our family or in the community, and they're saying, yeah, I wouldn't go that direction. Maybe you just need to pray. Maybe we just need to come together and offer you more support. But there's no harm in having that mental health support along with the prayer, the faith, and the love. It's necessary. The first thing that I do is I always ask, what are your beliefs? Because we may all have a faith, but we may have different beliefs within our faiths. We have different aspects or components of spirituality that we engage in and that we believe. So I'm always interested in knowing, how do you identify spiritually and religiously? And once I'm able to learn that information, I do a great job with referring to everyone. Guess what? I am not the one person for all people. And I love that I get to work with other professionals who look like me and look like the people that I'm connected to, and I refer them to those individuals. But I think it's important to know the person, who might be a good fit for them, who may be able to speak the language or the things that are important to them.
So it sounds like part of what you're saying is when someone is seeking out a mental health practitioner, it's okay to look for maybe some relatability.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Ethnic matching, faith matching, all of those things are important. And research has even found that it enhances the outcomes for treatment for African Americans or for individuals from the diaspora. They're more likely to commit to treatment when the person sitting across from them looks like them.
That's a great point. Share one way that we as a community, regardless of where a person may live on the globe, can continue to destigmatize mental illness.
Let me tell you, there is power in our stories. There's power in our experiences and what we overcome. As a professional, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I'll be transparent with you all because I don't mind this information being shared. But there was a time where I had a miscarriage, and me feeling like I was the strongest person in the world, and for something like that to happen, it completely devastated me. And luckily, I had a friend who noticed, who's also in the mental health field, that, hey, you need to talk to someone. And she connected me to this wise therapist. And I met with her for 3 sessions, and oh my gosh, it was life-changing. It meant, it got me through. And I'm sure many of us have gone through something. We're all professionals, but I can imagine if you've had some of the experiences that I have had, it is priceless to have someone to show up and listen to you for once. And that experience for me was everything. I got to tell that story. My husband and I, we've been married for 17 years. Hey, not perfect, but it's been amazing. But at one point we decided, let's do a tune-up. Gosh, no, it's something about 3 or 4 sessions. They kicked me out and said, you can figure this out from here. But we went for those 3 or 4 sessions, and it was life-changing. It's a life-changing experience. I encourage everyone, don't do life on your own. Get a great therapist. Do it.
Wow, don't do life on your own. We're not meant to do things on our own, are we? No. One of the probably most common things I tell my clients is, you know, we have seasons in our lives where we want to be hyper independent. And sometimes that's a trauma response.
Yes.
Sometimes that's a defense mechanism.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the bottom line is we need other humans. We need other people. We need people to relate to. We need community. Last question. What are some healthy ways to encourage mental well-being? And you can even throw in there some things that you do that you're comfortable with sharing to just, you know, balance out work-life balance.
Oh my goodness. So, because I'm into religion and spirituality, I'm a believer or a Christian, and you all may have your own views on spirituality, and that's okay. I embrace all of them, and I encourage them. I encourage you to embrace it as well. Something that works for me is prayer. So I spend a lot of time in prayer. When I'm not working, I'm not working.
I love that.
How I protect my mental health.
Can you say that one more time?
When I'm not working, I am not working. I think as professionals, we find ourselves in spaces where people are always placing a demand on us. There's always a pull. As soon as they find out, oh, you're a therapist, you help other people, you work with people. Well, I have this issue. What do you think about this? I get it all the time. I send out devotions to over 100-something people every day. And at least once or twice a week, someone's going to text back and say, you got a minute? And I fall for it every time. I'm like, yeah, I got a minute. Sure. And then it turns into an impromptu session that I did not ask for. And I was not asked permission for. So what I've learned is how to put those boundaries in place. Maintain your boundaries. If I am empty, I cannot pour into someone else. So it is so important that I take that time daily to pour into myself, whether it's reading, whether it's sitting quietly, whether it's praying, whether it's getting up early before the 3-year-old tries to take me out of this world, whatever the case it may be, whatever it is.
I felt that one.
Yes, yes. She tells me what to do. She fusses at me. Someone should be checking on me. Even as we speak, people need to check on me. Are you okay, Dr. Sheriyse?
Please check on Dr. Sheriyse.
Right, right. But I find my place I find that space for me. Find space for you. You're worth it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. If it's okay with you, I actually have one more question to piggyback off of something you shared earlier. In your line of practice and all of the work that you've done in the different spaces, amongst African Americans, what diagnosis have you come across appears to be the most frequent?
I'm going to say anxiety. And depression, they sometimes go hand in hand, but anxiety. But let me say this. We have a reason to be anxious, but we have to control our response to it. But there are so many reasons we can think of systematically, how we're treated from day to day, some of the workplace trauma that we endure in the workspace.
For sure.
Microaggressions, macroaggressions, passive, overt, covert. We're in a space sometimes where we often feel like we do not belong, and it creates anxiety. It breeds imposter syndrome. There are so many things. So anxiety is one of the biggest things, and I have to help people kind of conceptualize when their anxiety is appropriate and then when their response has kind of gotten out of control. And how do we deal with it when we can no longer manage it? Sometimes it even requires people to change spaces to be safe. So sometimes we are just not treated the way we should be treated. We're not treated equally or equitable. And in those instances, sometimes no matter how good we are, no matter what we do, we don't receive what we need to grow and flourish. Instead, it becomes a place of trauma, and it becomes this disappointment and resentment. And in those instances, sometimes I have to encourage people, get out of that space that's toxic. Yes, you deserve to be there. Yes, you do a great job at what you do, but the space does not embrace you in the way you have embraced it. It is okay to look for spaces where you can be safe. Not everyone is going to be a disruptor, but sometimes just by our mere presence, we are disruptors, and that's enough.
Yeah,
That's
space,
enough.
and that
Something
it is
you just said
okay to find a space that's safe and deserving of your presence.
Yes.
Versus maybe, I think maybe we've all been there, right? Where we try to push the integration of our being into
Yes.
spaces because we know that we deserve to be there.
Yes.
But I guess what's more important, is it what I deserve, or is it the safety for you to be able to carry forward your legacy and your future?
So important.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Appreciate
Thank you.
having you today.
Yes, bye TACA Speaks. Love you guys.